Chapter 575 to 576. After receiving the commission from Hyuga Hisashi, Homusubi did not stay in Konohagakure anymore, and after throwing off all the eyeliners, she quickly left the village. Not long after, Homusubi arrived at a familiar location, and this was the forest area outside Shimura Danzo's secret base of operation. In addition to collecting the agreed payment from the Sandaime Hokage, Homusubi had one other purpose why she used the Tsukihi clone publicly, and that reason is to take over the work of Fujin in the improvement of Chimera Buds and Chimera Jutsu and participate in Shimura Danzo's plan. After all, the Fujin clone was too badly damaged in several battles against the members of the Akatsuki organization and won't be of any use for the time being. But the improvement and development of the Chimera Buds and Chimera Jutsu are an immediate priority that cannot be delayed, and Kuroto must be involved in the whole process to make sure that nothing is left out. The rapid improvement in Nagato's strength has made Kuroto feel a little desperate and urgent. At present, no one can judge what are the upper limits of Nagato, nor can anyone, including Homusubi, infer when Nagato will make his next move or what will be his plans. Therefore, Homusubi must not waste any time dangling around and must do what he can in order to speed up the development and advancement of the Chimera Jutsu to complete his project godhood as soon as possible. With this thought in her mind, Homusubi continued to walk further and quickly approached Shimura Danzo's base. Whoosh, whoosh! But before Homusubi could get too close, suddenly, two shinobi wearing the Root subdivision gear appeared in front of her and said to him respectfully, "Danzo-sama is waiting for you at the base. Please follow us." The one who spoke was none other than the Bishojo-chan Fujin was quite familiar with, and knowing the other party's identity, Homusubi nodded lightly. It seems my arrival was within Danzo's expectations. Oh well, it doesn't really matter if Danzo expected me to come or not. And followed the two. It didn't take very long for the party of three to arrive at Danzo's base, and Homusubi soon met up with Danzo. "The two of you can go back to your posts." "Yes, Danzo-sama." After instructing the two subordinates to go back to their posts, Danzo first took a deep look at Homusubi, then said, "I do hope that your Amatsukami will abide by their previous agreement." Homusubi was taken aback by the sudden words of Danzo and asked in a confused tone, "What agreement are you talking about?" Danzo frowned and questioned, "Does Amatsukami intends to fool me now?" Fujin clearly stated, "For the future of the shinobi world, Konoha needs a new Hokage, someone courageous enough to stand against the wind, and Amatsukami has chosen Shimura-san for this purpose. Yeah. After giving out such a promise of supporting me to the position of the Hokage, do you intend to back out now?" When Homusubi heard Danzo's words, she couldn't help but realize, no wonder this old guy is jumping up and down in the village recently. So this is where his confidence is coming from. At the same time, Tsukihi was a bit speechless after listening to Danzo's reiteration of Fujin's words. Back then, Kuroto used the Fujin clone to make a deal with Shimura Danzo, and to make Danzo trust him, he spoke all that nonsense of supporting him to become Konoha's Hokage. It was supposed to be just empty talk to tempt Danzo and lower his guard so that he can become the perfect lab rat without any opposition. Kuroto never expected that this old guy would really take that empty talk seriously to his heart. And it just so happens that soon after that talk, the village was nearly destroyed, causing Sandaime Hokage to lose the trust and confidence of the people of the village. This made Shimura Danzo realize that his chance is here, and he started to jump up and around the village in order to take advantage of this God-given once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Seeing Homusubi silent and not giving any reply, Danzo snorted coldly. "What now? Did Hiruzen offer something more tempting?" Danzo is obviously aware of the fact that Homusubi has just met up with the Sandaime Hokage, and it wouldn't be so strange if Sandaime Hokage made a deal with Amatsukami, causing that organization to tilt their support from his side to Hiruzen's side. After listening to Danzo's question, Homusubi's brain turned, and she chose deliberate silence, which was regarded as acquiescence by Danzo. Damn it, Hiruzen. I won't lose to you, not this time. After cursing inwardly, Danzo looked at Homusubi and said, Humph, what can Hiruzen even give to a Matsukami? I know his character better than anyone. He can't give a Matsukami anything except for just some money. But I am different. As long as a Matsukami continues to support me and help me ascend to the position of Konoha's Hokage, I can give the entire land of water to a Matsukami. Huh? Homusubi was startled by what Danzo said, and for a moment she even suspected that she heard it wrong. Danzo turned around and said in a fanatic tone, The era of the 5 great shinobi villages will end in my hands. When that happens, the entire land of water and the neighboring islands can be handed over to the Amatsukami to manage. One of the 5 great nations in exchange for supporting and helping me in becoming Konoha's Hokage is not a bad price, don't you think? I believe you should feel my sincerity. I don't feel it at all. The land of water was not yours, is not yours, and will never be yours to begin with. And the same case applies to the other nations, so why do you get to call the shots? At this time, you are writing this kind of empty check in order to tempt me? Do you think I am an idiot just like you? Homusubi thought inwardly, but didn't give an outright reply to Danzo. Seeing that Homusubi was still silent, Danzo looked back at her and said in a confident tone, Hiruzen will never be able to give you such an offer. You can't refuse me. Looking at Danzo's face. Wait, he was serious just now? Homusubi suddenly realized that this old geezer is not joking and couldn't help but think at the same time. I really didn't expect that he would have such grand ambitions unifying the entire shinobi world. This old thing is really... For a while, Homusubi couldn't figure out how to describe the man named Shimura Danzo. After a long silence, she finally said, The reason I am here this time, it's just to replace Fujin and help with the improvement of Chimera Jutsu. As for your proposal just now, I will report it back to the organization. Hearing Homusubi's words, Danzo's face turned into a gloomy expression. Homusubi didn't care about Danzo's reaction at all and stated directly, Take me to the laboratory. With a bit of hesitation, Danzo nodded and ordered one of his subordinates to escort Homusubi to the laboratory she will be working in. Although Danzo was very dissatisfied with Homusubi's attitude towards him, Danzo's rationality told him that now is not the time to turn his face to a Matsukami organization. Not to mention the Chimera Jutsu is yet to be fully completed, Danzo still needs a Matsukami's support in advanced biotechnology and requires a Matsukami's involvement in the improvement to check and balance Orochimaru. Therefore, even if he is dissatisfied, Danzo chose to suppress it for now and focus on what's more important at the moment. After Homusubi left, Orochimaru walked out of the darkness and said with a mocking smile, It seems that Homusubi doesn't have a very good opinion of you. Humph! Danzo snorted and said in an annoyed tone, This is the reason why I hate the uchiha. Uchiha shouldn't exist in the shinobi world at all. Because of being deeply influenced by Nidaime Hokage, Danzo has an indelible hostility towards the Uchiha clan. Of course, Danzo's situation is much worse than Nidaime Hokage, Senju Tobirama, despite not having a very good opinion of the Uchiha clan, was still capable of using that clan for the benefit of Konoha, but that's not the case with Shimura Danzo. In Danzo's opinion, the Uchiha clan shouldn't even exist. Orochimaru also knew this fact, and said with a thoughtful expression, A Matsukami should be aware of your oil and water type relationship with the Uchiha clan, and yet they sent Homusubi to work on the improvement of Chimera Jutsu. I am afraid this is not a very good news for the plan. Homusubi's involvement might even prove to be detrimental. Danzo's eyes narrowed and said, I must find a way to get in contact with Fujin as soon as possible. Otherwise, things will get out of hand. Orochimaru shook his head. Don't put too much hop on him. I was there at that time, and I am quite certain Fujin's injuries weren't normal. They didn't look like a disguise. Even Tsunade was helpless, and stated that he won't survive. Orochimaru may not have intervened much in those battles on that night. He was still observing everything that was happening in the village, so he had a clear grasp of the entire situation. As such, he is also aware that even Tsunade Haim, the best Iryonen in the shinobi world, was helpless in the face of Fujin's injuries. Others may not know it, but Orochimaru is aware of the disease that the people of the Kaguya clan suffer from. He has figured out that that disease is majorly related to using Shikotsumyaku. As such, he perfectly understands that Fujin's situation was critical, and it would be a miracle if he survived that condition. Danzo said with a regretful expression, "Sigh. I warned him not to interfere too much, but he just didn't listen, and now this has happened, and he is to blame for all this problem." Danzo has regarded that among the various members of the Amatsukami, Fujin supports him, while Homusubi opposes him. He thinks that there must be different factions within the Amatsukami. Fujin must be part of the faction that supported him, while Homusubi must be part of the faction that opposes him. And now that Fujin is critically injured, so the faction that Fujin is part of must be at a temporary disadvantage, which has caused this situation. As for the reason why Homusubi is hostile to him and opposes him, is there even a reason to ask? Everyone knows Danzo's repulsive attitude towards the Uchiha clan, so it is normal for Homusubi, who happens to be an Uchiha, to be hostile towards him. Orochimaru licked his lips with an excited smile and questioned, "Do you want to continue the plan?" Danzo struck his crutch on the ground and said with an unquestionable expression, "Of course, no one can stop me. The age is increasing, and the body is declining. But with this decline, the ambitions that should decrease as well are not only not decreasing, but increasing with each and every passing day. Now his ambitions have reached such an unstoppable level that even if a 10,000-meter cliff is present in front of him, Danzo will not stop and jump without a shred of hesitation." "Of course, no one can stop me," said Danzo with a determined expression. Hearing Danzo's answer, Orochimaru smiled slightly. He wasn't surprised at all. If there is anyone in this shinobi world who knows Danzo better than Danzo himself, then it is undoubtedly Orochimaru, who has witnessed the entire process of Danzo turning from an elder who maintained Konoha's stability from the shadows to a slave of power who wants only one thing, become Konoha's light, that is, the so-called Hokage. As such, Orochimaru fully understands for Danzo, who has become a slave and lost himself in pursuit of power, this sudden opportunity is too rare to be missed. This extent of destruction was a first for Konoha. More than 90% of the village was destroyed, and there were more than 2,000 casualties. Such a disaster, no matter what the cause and no matter during which Hokage's leadership did it happen, once it happened will inevitably cause the Hokage to fall into a whirlpool of negative public opinion. It must be known that the previous 3 great shinobi world wars, no matter how cruel or painful they were, never once reached the gate of Konoha village, let alone razed the village overnight like what happened a few nights ago. And even if it was the betrayal of Uchiha Madara or the attack of the 9-tailed demon fox, the village never once suffered such an extent of damage. In the hearts of the vast majority of Konoha ninjas and civilians, the inherent concept that Konoha village is the strongest power in the ninja world and the Hokage is the strongest ninja in the entire shinobi world still exists. The people of Konoha may be willing to understand the difficulties of Sandaime Hokage, given the feats of the Akatsuki and Amatsukami, but they are willing to agree that the enemy this time is just too powerful. Too powerful that even Hokage, who is supposed to be the strongest ninja in the shinobi world, is not able to defeat them for whatever reason. But emotionally, they are unable to accept such a reality. The destruction of their homes and loved ones still makes them subconsciously blame Sandaime Hokage for his inability to protect the village and the villagers. After all, the name and position Hokage represents responsibility, No matter how many valid reasons or excuses there are, the fact that the village was destroyed is unchangeable, so the incumbent Hokage also cannot shirk the responsibility for his failure. When a similar situation happened during the last stages of the Third Great Shinobi War, Sandaime Hokage took the responsibility and stepped down as the Hokage and gave the position to the Yondaime. That time, that move may have been his political maneuver, but he did so nonetheless. So, this time too, he will have to step down as the Hokage. This is a fact that almost all the intellectual and experienced people understand. And with how active Shimura Danzo has become these days, without a doubt, he wants to use this opportunity, because he too realizes that this is not only his best chance, but also his only chance. If this opportunity were to be missed, then he will never be able to become Konoha's light. After seeing through Danzo's thought process, Orochimaru licked his lips and asked suggestively, "If Amatsukami really falls on the old man's side, your next plan will be greatly affected." Danzo shook his head and said with a confident tone, "It won't happen. As I said earlier, I know Sarutobi better than anyone else. He can't offer a price higher than I am offering them. So, Amatsukami will not choose to cooperate with him. I suspect that the reason Amatsukami sent Homusubi to meet Sarutobi is just to borrow him in order to force me to make more concessions. I knew about it and offered the entire land of water, but it appears that just the land of water doesn't satisfy them. Their appetite is bigger, so they want more." I suppose this might indeed be the case. Orochimaru nodded as if he agreed with this possibility, but his eyes that were looking at Danzo's back were clearly emphasizing that he is looking at an idiot, and there was only one thought going on in his mind, which is, this guy is utterly hopeless. According to Orochimaru, the reason why Amatsukami sent Homusubi in place of Fujin could be just about anything, and he is not sure what it is, but what he is definitely sure of is that it wouldn't have anything to do with increasing concessions or bigger appetite. After all, the leader of that organization can drop freaking meteors from outer space. Knowing this fact, will there still exist a foolish daimyo or country in this shinobi world that would oppose Amatsukami if that organization tried to take over it through brute force? The answer is an obvious big fat no. In fact, if you think about it, there would be countless countries in this shinobi world who would even welcome Amatsukami and offer their entire land to them, just for the sake of the sense of security that Amatsukami might be able to provide them with. Therefore, what Danzo thinks is bound to be impossible, but Orochimaru did not bother to correct Danzo, because the bigger idiot Danzo remains, the easier it will be for Orochimaru to manipulate him. Danzo obviously didn't know what Orochimaru was thinking. He looked at Orochimaru and said in an unquestionable tone, "The progress of the improvement of the Chimera Jutsu must be accelerated." Orochimaru smiled slightly and said, "Recently, I have made a major breakthrough on my part, and now the part that was supposed to be completed by Fujin is what's constraining further progress, so that's up to Homusubi. I just hope that Homusubi, who is replacing Fujin, is as good as him and wouldn't let us down. Otherwise, it might take months, or even years to complete the improvement of Chimera Jutsu." Hearing Orochimaru's words, Danzo nodded in appreciation. When it comes to his talent as a researcher, Orochimaru does have a capital to be prided upon. At the same time, he couldn't help but frown at the mention of Homusubi. Danzo feels that it is inappropriate to let an uchiha intervene in his core plan, but he doesn't really have a choice. Homusubi is the person Amatsukami sent, so he will have to make do with Homusubi, which made him sigh endlessly. Orochimaru didn't care about Danzo's sigh. He was thinking something else, and after a while of thinking, he said tentatively, "It's about time you start selecting the targets. Have you considered which Kekkei Genkai you want to swallow?" Danzo shook his head indifferently. "I haven't decided yet." Orochimaru knew that Danzo won't reveal such important intelligence to him, so he didn't bother to ask any more. just turned around and started walking into the darkness while licking his lips in excitement. On Homusubi's side, she read the report handed over to her by an assistant, and after reading it, Tsukihi's pupils under the Homusubi mask shrank slightly. Judging from the data recorded in this report, in the days when Kuroto was absent, the progress of the part Orochimaru was in charge of making a major breakthrough, and even many other technical difficulties that the entire project was facing were also solved one by one. From this report alone, Homusubi could guess that it was all done by Orochimaru. Almost none of Danzo's researchers are capable of such advancement in such a short period of time. So she couldn't help but think, it seems Danzo and Orochimaru are still maintaining their cooperative relationship. Thinking of this, Homusubi suddenly realized something. Orochimaru kidnapped the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki from the village. Even if Orochimaru and Danzo did not have a conflict over it, Danzo should have, at least terminated his cooperative relationship with Orochimaru for the time being. But this didn't happen. Not only did Danzo not terminate his cooperation with Orochimaru, but he didn't even bother to ask Orochimaru to immediately return the Jinchuriki and the Hyuga heiress. This shows that Danzo and Orochimaru might have reached some kind of agreement in private. And thinking so, Homusubi felt more strongly that it has something to do with Danzo's recent secret moves. Danzo is actively seeking the position of Hokage. This is not hidden from Homusubi, and now she has finally realized that the support from Amatsukami may not be his only source of confidence. Homusubi thinks that the two kids, Naruto and Hinata, who are in Orochimaru's hands, are also the bargaining chips Danzo intends to use to his advantage at the time of the Hokage elections. Imagine what would happen if Danzo reached an agreement with Orochimaru and enacted a scene of the rescue of Hinata and Naruto. Such an act of bravery will suddenly shoot up Danzo's reputation in the village. In such a scenario, the support of the Hyuga clan will undoubtedly tilt towards Danzo. When that happens, as long as Danzo manages to woo a few other major shinobi clans and get support from the daimyo, it wouldn't be impossible for him to replace Sarutobi Hiruzen as Konoha's next Hokage. But this all depends on one question, and that is, will Orochimaru hand over Naruto and Hinata to Danzo?